Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett Steak. There's a lot to go over, so let's get started. I want to start off with some trade news, but you may be thinking NFL trade news, but I want to talk about NBA trade news. The deadline was yesterday, so I want to go over all the key trades and give my opinions about them. So let's start off with a big one, and I think this is the biggest one, in my opinion, was the Bulls landing Nikola Vucevic and Alfred Camino, and then they get rid of Otto Parter and Wendell Carter Jr. into first round picks. The Bulls also trade for Daniel Tice, and so that's a good get. For the Bulls, I realized two things. One, they like Zach LaVine enough to build around him and make him their top player. Second is usually playoff teams consist of two All Stars. So I feel like they know, well, if we get Vucevic, we should be able to make it in the playoffs. And with the usual playoff teams like Indiana, Toronto, Boston all struggling, they realize, okay, well, this is our chance to make the playoffs this year out of any other year, it feels like. So they're going to go push their chips in now, and then it also leaves room to make another big move or signing in the off season to then get them to become even more of a contender going to next year. Because right now they're just a playoff team, nothing more. But it's a good start for Chicago, who's been bad for a while, so good for them. And they got a good head coach as well, so they'll be pretty good going forward. Next is Victor Oladipo trades to Miami, and then Houston gets Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk. So Miami is doing something very interesting here. You know how Brooklyn is loaded up with offense? Well, Miami is doing the opposite. Instead, they're saying, okay, um, let's get a bunch of defensive players to kind of stop the scoring of Kyrie or KD or Harden. Um, I mean, they already had good defenders, Iguodala, and Butler, and Nunn, and Bam, and then they traded for Ariza a couple days ago, and then yesterday traded for Oladipo, and Oladipo's the one that can go get you a bucket and play defense, like kind of like a Butler, but in the playoffs, Butler's better, but Oladipo's definitely known more for his defensive skills, in my opinion, than offense skills. So it's interesting to see here that what will work. Will the firepower offense be the key deciding factor, or will having a bunch of defensive players um, be able to get the win here? I would still lean towards Brooklyn because I feel like in this league, while defense is good, like I feel like you need to outscore the opponent is more important than just getting a bunch of defenders to try to guard them. So that's what I think. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially since they actually could meet in the second round potentially, which would be crazy. Rajon Rondo goes to the Clippers, and the Hawks get Lou Williams and two second round picks. So the Clippers finally got a true point guard, which is good for them. I mean, no disrespect to Reggie Jackson or Patrick Beverly, but Rondo, especially in the playoffs, Rondo is on a different level. He averaged around 9 points a game, 6.5 assists, and 4.5 rebounds a game off the bench last playoffs, which is pretty good. Not to mention his leadership skills. This will help them in the playoffs, in my opinion. Now, I'm not going to say it's like, oh, they gotta win automatic. I don't think it's that big a move where I would put them in that type of category right now. But they're definitely like putting themselves up with all the other good West teams. Um, it'll be interesting to see what happens here. And then for Lou Williams, he can go back to Atlanta and get some more of the lemon wings, if you will, since that's what he got suspended for in the bubble last year, getting some wings during the pandemic. So he can get all the wings he wants now. So next is you got Aaron Gordon getting traded to Denver for Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, and a first round pick. And then Denver also got JaVale McGee as well. So this move I have mixed feelings on. So, Gordon's obviously the better athlete. I mean, bigger guy overall. Like he can help guard a LeBron type of thing. Um, and he could shoot the ball for sure. Like whether it's a mid range or 3 point, he can shoot it. I would say Harris is a better 3 point shooter, and I would say, Harris was an underrated, pretty good defender as well. So I mean, I feel like you can say it's an upgrade, but I'm just not sure how much of an upgrade. But whether it's a big upgrade or not, it will in the end not matter if Jamal Murray doesn't play like he did in the bubble last year. Because right now he's been a shell of himself all year. But if he can get to that playoff form that he had last year, then of course Denver will be a tough out. But if he can't, and then there's your answer there as far as how far they can go. Also, one real quick point is that getting also JaVale McGee to back up Joker means they're not a big believer in Bobo quite yet, so I'll be interested to see what happens there. But again, it's a topic for another day. Philadelphia acquired Thunder's George Hill for Tony Bradley, Terrence Ferguson, 2 future second-round picks, and Austin Rivers goes to OKC as a 3-team deal. So Austin Rivers will go to OKC, Ferguson will go to the Knicks, I believe. But so we're just going to talk about the Philly side of this, though. So Philly just got better with George Hill. They got a good young guard to back up Simmons, but now they can also use George Hill as a off the bench type of shooting guard to produce some shooting and scoring. Since besides Seth Curry and maybe Tobias Harris, they don't have a lot of reliable outside shooting. I'm good for Philly for not like trading the farm to get Colorado as a rental. This is a nice good little piece addition here. Toronto trades Norm Powell to Portland for Rodney Hood and Gary Trent Jr. So this is a big for Portland. When I say big, I'm not saying huge per se, but big enough to where I feel like it'll make a big difference. Because Gary Trent's a nice defender, nice player overall and stuff. I mean, he's very similar to Norman Powell, but one thing Norman Powell can do that Gary Trent hasn't shown is Norman Powell can go for 40 if he wants to. But he'll be a nice kind of 6-man off the bench type of thing. He'll help Portland, stay afloat with Denver, who just made a big move. Help stay with the LA teams, and then obviously Utah and Phoenix, who are up there. They need to do something to make sure they stay up with them, and that's it. The Celtics trade for Evan Fournier, and the Magic get 2 second-round picks. This is not the best move that the Celtics could have made to get out of their slump, but at least it's a move. It's something. You get more scoring, which you need, but the Celtics promise more on the defensive end. So trade for Oladipo would have been better, but you get a nice 6-man if you will to kind of help out with the lack of depth on their bench. Again, like I said, more scoring. So I still think they have a ceiling, but at least I feel a little about their chances than I did the other day. And then finally, the Mavs trade James Johnson was Wundu for Nico Mele, and then also J.J. Redick. So here was my takeaway here. The Mavs realized that they made a mistake trading Seth Curry, and they want good shooters to play with Luka. Mele's good average, big, deep shooter for a big man, and then I liked James Johnson for his defense and all that in his play that he's contributed. Beretta, you can argue, is better, especially in clutch time. And this is actually good because in clutch time moments, instead of Luka is going to have the ball and try to make the winning shots, like if Luka's getting pressure or anything, or if Luka can't take the last shot, okay, now we can go to Redick for a clutch shot here. And since the Mavericks are not good in clutch situations, this can help them immensely in that. But the thing to keep in mind, though, is that they traded 2 defenders for 2 offensive players. And they need to get better on defense, so that's obviously not going to help them. But the Mavs are thinking kind of the Nets approach here. It's like, okay, let's not fool ourselves. Instead of having defenders, let's just try to outscore the opponent, try to be the most efficient offense we can. And then if we can just fix, our crunch time situation, unlike last year, then it'll be a very good situation. So we shall see if that works. Now here are some surprises. I'm surprised the Lakers didn't make a move. I know they didn't need to trade for Colorado, but what about Andre Drummond, which luckily just got bought out, so they can still get them. But there are some other keepers, like what about Oladipo or something like that. And then same with Brooklyn. I know Brooklyn has a lot of pieces, but again, they need defenders, and Brooklyn didn't go get any through the trade market. So I was just surprised that neither of the 2 top contenders, assuming LeBron and AD are healthy, didn't make any moves there. So it was kind of interesting. So the big news that came out early today is regarding NFL is the Dolphins traded their 3rd overall pick to San Francisco for a 3rd rounder and 2 future first rounders. Then they traded for the 12th pick, and then they had one of their future first rounders they just acquired to send it to Philly for the 6th pick, so Philly picks now at 12, and then they get a future first rounder like I just mentioned. So let's look at the angles here from the 3 different teams. Let's start off with Philly. This is a risky move. I didn't think they needed to draft a quarterback because you got to see what Hurts has, and then they just brought in Joe Flacco, so there's no need there. Now the problem is that the good old lineman receivers might be gone at that point. And what I mean by that is there's the big 3 receivers. You got Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, and then you got Kyle Pitts, tight end, and then you got your 2 big offensive linemen, either Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater. So that's a total of 6 like key players right there on offense that you would want to draft. 12th is kind of risking it. Um, as far as might not be able to draft them because you might have fallen too far back. Now, in my mock draft, it depends on a whole bunch of different things. But in my mock draft, that again I won't reveal for another more couple weeks till it gets closer to time, I would have Jalen Waddle just barely getting to that point to where they could snag him, which would be good. That would be a good gift for Philly to get Jalen Waddle, get a big time threat for Jalen Hurts, who knows Waddle's familiar with him. And then he's better than any of your other receivers you have right now. And then you get, and if you tell me, okay, I get Waddle for now, and then next year, I mean, you're gonna have 2 first-round picks, and one of them is going to be good because Philly's going to suck next year. So one of them's going to be good, and you can get either your quarterback that featured in if Hurts is bad, or if he's not, then you can get, let's say, another offensive lineman or something like that. But you're going to have 2 first-round picks next year, so it's going to be pretty good to get Waddle this year if that happens, and then 2 first-round picks next year. It's a pretty good deal. Now it's just if all their offensive linemen or receivers, like I said, are taken, and they have to settle for a defensive player or overreaching for another receiver or lineman, then that's where kind of things are bad. But I feel like Philly has a chance to still get something good there. So this is good for Philly, especially since they're a rebuilding team. Miami. So I was getting on Miami for letting Kyle Van Noy go randomly for nothing and getting their return, but their GM or coach or whoever is responsible for this trade has redeemed himself. They realize they can get this skill player that they want at 6 instead of 3, so therefore they can trade back, and they trade back 3 spots, but yet are still able to gain a first-round pick and then gain a third-round pick. So very good for Miami. So now, unless if Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson comes through Miami, this means they're going to rely on Tua, which will be interesting. I think that's a big gamble, and I'm a little pessimistic on that working out. But the process is they get a nice offensive player, and again, another feature picks, which is good. San Francisco. The 49ers are clearly looking towards the future, most likely picking a QB. So now Jimmy G will most likely be the Alex Smith for Mahomes type of thing. So he'll start for the year because, I mean, the 49ers say they want to keep him for at least a year, and then the rookie will start after that. A report has said that they're interested in all of the top 5 QBs. Well, Lawrence will be there. And I think this report could be true, but I think they would have to have one player as their preferred choice, if you will. For example, if the Jets decide to pass on keep Darnold, and then they are not able to trade the picks, so they just take like an offensive lineman, a wide receiver, or whatever, then that means Wilson will fall down to 3rd, and San Francisco is going to snap him up really quick. But let's say Wilson goes to 2 like expected, then I would say if they chose Mac Jones, I wouldn't be a shocker per se, but I would definitely disagree with that, just because Mac Jones is not as high as the other quarterbacks, in my opinion, and you most likely would have gotten him at 12th if you would have stayed there. So that would have been down the trip at 3rd to get him when he could have gotten him at 12th. So therefore, I think it's going to be between Justin Fields and Trey Lance. Pros and cons of both. And it's hard to pick. For me, my comparison for Trey Lance right now is he looks like Lamar Jackson. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Lamar Jackson or exactly like Lamar Jackson, but that's who he kind of reminds me of, Lamar Jackson. So you have that choice to have a Lamar Jackson type run that type of system, or you can do Fields, who in my opinion is a bigger, athletic, faster version of Dak Prescott, and that type of offense where there's just a lot of air raids and stuff like that. So you just have to decide if you're Shanahan what type of offense you want to run there. In my opinion, you can't go wrong with either, but you have to be careful here because if you pick a quarterback and ends up being bust, you're going to be in the same position a couple years down the line. And with all the talent and on the team in general, but specifically on offense, that would be very bad luck. If the 49ers don't get a home run here, so they have to definitely do their due diligence. And Justin Fields probably comes in next week, so we'll see what happens there. But if I'm the 49ers, I would go with Fields. But again, can't go wrong with either Fields or Lance here. And then again, if Wilson falls to 3rd, they're going to most likely take him. So good choice all around. But good for San Francisco realizing they can't stay pat with Jimmy G when you have Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and Matthew Stafford in division. So they got the message. So thank you very much for listening to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel and tell everyone about me. Thank you very much, and you'll have a wonderful weekend.